Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis enfant perdu 14 000. And I'm still treading the grounds of the Grand Theft Auto universe. Today I'm going from the one that no one should ever play to the one that everyone has played. Yeah, screw the freeform organic mechanics of 1 and 2, or the organized criminal underworld of 3 that had the best parts of the series up to that point mixed in. If you're a real fan, then you'll have played the one that plays like Tony Fontana from Scarface got trapped in the Miami Vice universe. Well, going from pseudo New York to pseudo 80s South Florida has a significantly different feel to GTA 3, paralleled by additional gameplay features and a shift in storytelling mechanics, so it's different. In GTA 3, Claude Speed more or less got missions directly from the higher-ups, and his every action influenced the balance of power for each crime boss that he was loyal to, until finally he was empowered enough to go after the woman who was waging war on him and corrupting Liberty City one borough at a time. In Vice City, Tommy Vercetti is essentially set up from the beginning. The head of the Forelli crime family sends him to not Miami to start edging in on the local drug trade, and to keep him out of their hair. But upon arrival, Tommy is robbed, his future business partner is killed off, and there's like 5 possible people who could have planned the hit on the cocaine shipment. So from the very start, Tommy's in debt with virtually no way to recoup his losses, but rather than getting jobs and info straight from everybody you meet, everyone pretty much says, well, I didn't steal your drugs, but I'll sure ask a friend of a friend to investigate it for me. Sounds like what happened to me fresh out of college. So Tommy is forced to take more of a proactive role in the first third of the game, tracking down possible leads, looking for answers, and doing several odd jobs to earn money and a rapport with the local underworld. Although in terms of gameplay, this still just means running to a place and starting a mission. Not much IRL investigation, outside of use context clues to see what missions will be more important so that I can do those last. What? I don't have a compulsion. Screw you! I just don't want side quests all over the in-game map. And yes, finally! We finally have a map that you don't need to print out or unfold from the box. Took you what, 6 games now, Rockstar? Well wait, Body Harvest had one. 6 games? Super Metroid had you bit for over a decade at this point. Speaking of new and reasonable ways for taking in the world, the graphics have had a major overhaul. Aside from the more tropical environment, there's much more focus on colors and aesthetic style here, to highlight the styles and attitudes of the time. And it certainly is the prettiest of the 3D era. More filters are used to render the world, and models are smoother all around, and character models are far less segmented than before. My guess is, this time they weren't expecting limb removals every other death, and thus kept most of the body intact. And then there was a violent limb removal near the end of the game anyway, but that was treated as more of a tragic accident than wanton jibbing gore extravaganza. It was also a cool way to connect GTA 3 to Vice City. Aside from the burgeoning real estate agent quest line, interactions with the world are more prevalent. There are outfits to pick up all over town, more interiors for buildings, more boats and planes to utilize, and best of all, the police are no longer time-warping super cops, as our character was at least born in this dimension. Interactions with our character are much more engaging as well, seeing as he fucking talks now. Claude Speed was the strong silent type, always keeping his mouth shut when he wasn't being shot at, but in an attempt to rectify this mute weirdo mistake, Tommy Vercetti is on the opposite side of the spectrum. He never shuts up, and he says fuck every other sentence. Yeah, this fucking game isn't for fucking kids. You don't even know. Except I do know, Rockstar. It's used for shock value and to show that this game isn't for kids, thereby guaranteeing that it will definitely be bought by kids. And yet, I still find Tommy intriguing. He's a violent psychotic, but still acts like the new kid on the block, going around making friends and frenemies. Kinda like what happened to me going into college, actually. Which also reminds me, motorcycles are back. You might think that they would have been forgotten in 3 during all the last-minute editorials, but I disagree. I don't think it would have been hard at all to take a car, swap its body out, change the hitbox, add mounting animations and take away the hooker call ability, and add crash inertia. You even had this in the 2.5D universe. But hey, it's back now. You'd also think they'd be easier to hold on to and handle a little better too. But you'd be wrong. Apparently they weren't added into GTA 3 because Rockstar North are bullheaded perfectionists that wanted motorcycles to be as close as possible to the genuine article. Aww. That's why in GTA Vice City they handle like bicycles covered in WD-40 that go as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog. What? And then one of the developers must have noticed this and brought it up in a meeting, wherein the bike guy said, duh, that's how a dirt bike is supposed to feel. Then the sensible dev made him code something that actually handles like a motorcycle, covered in WD-40. So Tommy runs about, reconnecting with the world after his long stint in prison. He gets to know a would-be business partner, befriends or gets annoyed by everybody he meets, and then the investigation just kind of ends when Tommy makes friends with everybody and the game goes, this guy did it, I know because he's the one most focused on the coke trade. Everything does seem to lead to him. See, even Lance figured it out. And then the middle of the game is unlocking more areas and exploring Vice City while you do more favors for these people. Hey, be sure to keep your friends' clothes. You decorate your room with trophies, get to use the latest hardware, vehicles, water physics. I see Claude Speed isn't the only aquaphobe here, is he, Arthur? And then after killing the squattest drug lord ever and his entire army, Tommy is able to buy his house and take over his section of the criminal underworld. The Miami drug trade being a lot like Roman emperors. Am I right? Yes, I stole that joke. No wonder why Catalina was spanking it up with the Colombian cartel. If not for Claude, who knows what would have happened to Liberty City. After Ricardo and Colonel Cortez are removed from the equation, Tommy starts working on his own criminal network and buying up businesses, doing missions to strengthen his little underworld economy, and assisting in disputes between Cuban and Haitian ganglands. For all the talk of drug empires, very little of the economy resource missions actually revolve around drugs. From what I remember, there was an ice cream van front I drove around Little Havana for a bit, a big stash of supplies at the new home base, and some other things I did to acquire drugs for somebody else. I don't know, perhaps Tommy just left it all in the hands of Kent Paul and Ken Lawyerberg, which would explain a few things. But a far larger portion of my funds came from stealing cars for not O.J. Simpson's defunct auto business, bending not Steven Spielberg's arm into making high production value porn, brokering a relationship between a group of rock stars and a gang of violent psychotics on motorbikes, robbing a bank dressed as various iterations of Jason Voorhees, and buying a printing press from a kindly Mr. Miyagi type that informs you that this was primarily used to print cash at some point. And from there, just as I was starting to wonder how the story was going to wrap up, Tommy started getting phone calls from Lance on an 80s mobile phone and not a pager, basically saying, "I helped you get here. Why aren't you giving me more money and responsibility?" Quite frankly, I would, Lance, but you obviously have your head in the wrong place, and when Tommy did trust you not to fuck up again, you fucked up worse than ever and went to handle it by pouring yourself a glass of scotch back at the mansion that I own and you get to sleep in for a kickback, I think. Talk to my attorney once he gets out of the men's room. Once the game sees that you're raking in the prerequisite amount of cash, Sonny Forelli walks in like he owns the place and demands that Tommy bow down to him. Tommy tells him to piss off, insinuating that his stint in prison was all Sonny's fault in the first place, whereupon mass carnage ensues and Tommy gets to Claude speed it up wherever the hell he damn pleases, after doing a few more side missions, of course. It's a power fantasy again, but as I stated, probably not the best one to start with. All the 80s flavoring and intricate missions and cash, it has much more depth than GTA 3, but talking purely from a games as narrative standpoint, GTA 3 didn't need all these extra layers, the same way that GTA 2 didn't need a scripted story. GTA 2 was an organic sandbox that reacted to the player. GTA 3 was sort of that, plus a load of character vignettes that showed Claude Speed murdering his way into owning the whole city. GTA Vice City is not that. It is a load of character vignettes and playable mechanics that show Tommy Vercetti building up a criminal empire inside of a semi-responsive sandbox. It's an expanded version of GTA 3, but a very different game for its mechanics, functions, and the factions of the map not reacting so much to each of your missions. But for all of its mechanics, it's still a Rockstar sandbox game. GTA 3 with better visuals, more relatable story, and more references and Easter eggs. You know what? This is the game for the GTA fans. It's just not the game for the real Grand Theft Auto fans. Hey, have you picked up your tickets for Anime Bonsai this year? It's the largest anime convention held in Utah almost every year. This October, it'll be held the 19th through the 21st with pre-registration events on the 18th at the Davis Conference Center in Layton, Utah. All forms of animation are welcome. Games, movies, TV shows, actual anime, etc. Although, keep it kosher, guys. They do strive for a family-friendly environment after all. Pre-registration at the links below, and pre-registration ends on August 31st. It's about $40 for a 3-day weekend pass. This year's theme is superheroes versus villains. There's also a scavenger hunt going on involving the characters from Yu Yu Hakusho, and hey, you might even see myself or other children from the sanctuary. Don't be a stranger.